Okay, so I've been sitting here. It's been a long day of class, and I'm still surrounded by papers I should be writing and reading and that type of thing. But it occurred to me that you might want to know a little bit more about this guy who's talking to people on the internet. So, last year, when I was working on a project for class, one of the things I did was tell my vocation story in a video. It took a lot of work, and mainly because I had to put myself out in a way that was beyond my kind of imaginings of how to do this. So it was new and refreshing, and so I want to share it with you.
Take thought tonight. Take thought tonight when it is raining. Take thought of the game you have forgotten. You are the child of a great and peaceful race, an unalterable fable. You were discovered on a mild mountain. You have come up out of the godlike ocean. You are holy, disarmed, signed with a chaste emblem. You are also marked with forgetfulness. Deep inside your breast you wear the number of loss. Take thought tonight. Do this. Recover your original name. Thomas Merton, Raids on the Unspeakable.
My original name. Who am I? Where do I come from? I kind of feel like I should just know already. This is vocation. It's that elusive thing that we all have. Vocation comes from the Latin word vocare, and literally means to call. And at its basic level, that's exactly what it is. It's a person's calling. It's how God intends them to be happiest in their life. What do I hear, though? What's my name? Brooch. Brother Christopher. But it wasn't always that way. I used to be Christopher. Just Christopher. I was born into an Air Force family and was a pretty normal kid. I grew up at Edwards Air Force Base at St. Edward's Catholic Community, and it's pretty much here that my journey starts. I began altar serving. I learned to love the church, fell deeply in love with the liturgy, and in that liturgy, fell deeply in love with Jesus, understanding that it was through tradition that God speaks. I was a decent student. I went to Paraclete High School. While there, I learned a lot about people, about myself, but mostly, I think I learned about life. One time, I remember going to the chapel and just falling on my knees and cursing God for taking a friend in a car accident. Paraclete also gave me the opportunity to sit and listen to the wisest man I have ever met. He challenged me every day. He was also the man that first invited me to read Thomas Merton. Jerry Leonard recently passed away. He was my spiritual director and a constant force in my life. To be completely honest, I'm still not quite sure how I feel about his passing. He was my teacher, he was my guide, but he was also my friend, and a huge part of who I am today. It was during my senior year that I first thought about priesthood, and it was Jerry that helped me realize I wasn't ready. My junior and senior year in high school, I worked on the yearbook. I'd gotten my first camera when I was 10, and ever since, photography had been an important part of my life. With yearbook, I had found a forum for my photography, and it was something I really loved. And so college became a continuation of it. I went to school at Fresno State for graphic design. And during those 4 years, I had more opportunities than I could ever imagine. And I had a lot of fun. Any type of art you could imagine, ceramics, pencil, paper, paint, ink. That was my world. The whole time I loved it, but it wasn't filling me up. I was missing something. At that point, had you told me that just in a few years I would trade in my standard t-shirt and jeans for a brown hooded habit, sandals, and a rope belt, probably wouldn't have believed you. But during the time I was in college, I kept serving at St. Edward's, and Paraclete never really left the picture. I I was getting experience working, all the while still being fed by the experiences God provided me with. At that point, there was a lot of me in the picture. I thought about diocesan priesthood, but it wasn't really something I could see myself doing. I discovered I needed community. So I started reading up on various communities, and I turned to where any college student turns for information: the internet. After research and talking with my spiritual director, I wanted to speak to two groups. The problem was, I was still young, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I also made a condition. If I was going to go anywhere, I was going to be a military chaplain at some point in my life. So with that condition, I threw everything out and tried to find the place that would train me and let me go to serve. Again, things didn't go my way. I had a rough experience and I was hurt. It was the first time where I really had to ask God what He wanted me to do. I was broken, and so I had to pray. Every summer, I was helping the Sacred Heart sisters up at their camp in Big Bear, and it was during a family camp that one of the sisters came up to me and just casually asked if I had ever thought about the Capuchins. In my head, Francis was the crazy bird guy, and I wanted nothing to do with him. And so when Sister asked, I was taken aback, and I really wanted to just tell her that she was crazy. But Sister was insistent. She called me a couple times after family camp, asking if I had talked to the vocation director for the Capuchins yet. And eventually, for no other reason to get Sister off my back, I called Father Peter. In calling Father Peter, something else happened I just didn't expect. He called me back. And what was Sister calling to check on if I had talked to the vocation director became Father Peter calling me, asking when I was coming to visit. I put him off for a while, and eventually he wore down my defenses. I went to visit, albeit reluctantly, but while I was there, what I discovered was the Capuchins weren't all crazy people who hang out with birds and in gardens all day. They were real people with real struggles. I discovered a group of men trying to live their faith. And as I came to know them, eventually the question was no longer if I could fit into this group, but how my skills would benefit the community. I took this back to my spiritual director, and he was surprised, but he told me to follow God where He was leading me. Eventually I applied. However, I have this need for absolute security. I was graduating from college, life was changing, and I needed a backup plan. So my backup plan was Disney. I applied to work with Disney, and everything looked like it was going to go my way again. Disney was supposed to call me the week after the Capuchins admitted me to the order. But, as everything else in this story, things didn't go quite the way I wanted them to. Disney called the week before the Capuchins were supposed to call me, so my whole life was kind of thrown for a spin. I was faced with the choice of God or mouse, and eventually I had to be at peace with telling Disney no. It was really the first time in my life where I was living the words of Francis. Lord, tell me what to do. I was admitted to the order, and at that point I would like to say the story is over. I found my vocation, and in the same way a Disney fairy tale ends, I lived happily ever after. That simply is not the case, though. Someone once told me a vocation is not a one-time yes, but a yes that must be made every day. I found in my life I have to say yes at every moment. I can honestly say that some of the struggles I've had since entering the order have been the most difficult in my life. Through it all, the years I've been a friar have also been the best years of my life. I get up in the morning and remember, sometimes after a few cups of tea, that I genuinely am blessed to be doing what I am doing. There are often my nothing can be this difficult moments, but there are also the moments I am absolutely and totally overwhelmed with the blessing it is to be doing what I do. Examining my life, I realize there will be challenges wherever I go. I'm a human being. As a human, as a friar, there's going to be trials. They don't go away, and my trials follow me. I'm weak, and for me there's only one answer: God. If I'm honest with myself and ask what He wants of me, I turn to the gospel. I must grow smaller so He may increase. This is the essence of my original name. Brother is the reality of who I need to be. And I think that's the answer for anyone looking for happiness. Always putting the other person in front of myself. That's what it's all about. As a teacher at St. Francis High School reminds his students, my life, your will. This is the way to happiness and fulfillment. This is my vocation. My name.